Buongiorno. Damn, now I started. Okay, I've been doing some changes. These needs to be in the washing. Okay, let's see. This is going to be creative. I'm going to work on that dream catcher. I was simply looking for a way to do this, and I realized, well, this week I'm not going to go nuts in nature. I'm going to go nuts in here. So I have certain masks, 1, 2, 3, that I put there. Hung up more. This is an experiment just to see how it will dry, and maybe I can use it for decoration. Bring light also into the kitchen. Yeah, it's super weird. Of course, we're now in the dark season, where you simply are glad for every bit of light. Things I have done in my apartment recently, these were, I don't know, my neighbors just rescued flowers that they wanted to chuck. And I just took these fern-like things and just hung them there. And now they're just drying. I mean, okay, they're hanging a bit. But it doesn't matter, because you could even put like wire in this to keep it in shape. But to me, it's okay. Okay, I'm just gonna be a bit specific. Yesterday I made some bulgur with paneer, which is a type of cheese. I ate it with tomato sauce. My neighbors rescued some seitan, like burger style. I just chopped it into slices, fried it with chili. The bulgur also goes with chili. Okay, and now this is, of course, the bathroom. Yeah. That's my avo plant. Because we're in winter, I have the heater a bit on, because in these two rooms, the heater is completely off. I fixed this. This was just something that was standing around. And I thought, it's not this thing. It's not stone. It's just something with something glued on top. So there was originally this thing, but I didn't really like it. There's not a lot of space on this, so here was already a hole. So I took this thing, but it wasn't keeping, it wasn't high enough. So I put this thing, screwed it on here, placed it on top, realized that it was tilted, and then realized, okay, if I put wood here and wood there, then it's perfect. Yeah. This is also, of course, DIY. This is only resting on the edge. I'm still thinking of changing that. This, I went to bring away the trash, like old glass bottles, to the container. And this was the reward. And I said, hey, this, it's an asparagus, which connects me to Africa because there were asparaguses growing there. And now today's mission, apart from this recording, is to figure out a way how to put a curtain here, so that if someone would want to do like a nice cleaning, healing session, I mean, that would be only me or then my wife, if she were ever to appear. I just want this, that you can be private, and everyone knew probably they wouldn't barge in there. This is heat, for heat blockage, because I am heating in here. so this keeps the cold out. Okay, now I'm just going to be here. Like I said, these things I used to have there, they need to be rearranged. I also have said to myself, yeah, okay, actually that is an interesting thought. But I want to make these more professional. I mean, what does that even mean, more professional? Well, I'm just going to tell you how I work. Because I see every time, you have to put these pins in the wall, and I don't really like that. And then I start thinking, okay, how else could I do this? Yeah, I should be all right. Yeah. So I thought, okay, if I take this thing, and then in the corners, for instance, wow, it's super chilly in here. Maybe I should wear a jacket or something. Or just get used to the cold. Drink some tea. Yeah, I'm rendering also videos at the moment. And while you're doing that, you can always do other things. Yesterday I also did, the whole room downstairs is full of laundry, which I think is awesome. Okay, so I thought about putting like metal, like rings. Now I found them. But then how am I going to put that? How am I going to put the metal ring in there? I think I know. I can do it like this. Fold it over and then sew it. Okay, I'm going to get that. The only problem I have with this is that if I were to wash them, that now you've got metal. And if you're washing this with sensitive things like this, which is wool, the metal may injure it. Which then, of course, what it basically says is, well, then just don't wash it with, just put it into a short washing program and only put these things in. So then you can say, okay, I'm just gonna wash this with the things where I know it's not gonna injure it in any way. Yeah, so I've put the carpet there. It was really dirty. It's still a bit dirty. I washed it. It's just a bit difficult to clean these things. But we have a room where there is the heating system, so it's a bit more hot. But yeah, I did it fairly late in summer. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do then. Sometimes you just need to, because you see, I don't like this. This is unprofessional. Because you want to be able to put it up and take it also down again really easily, and then I can just put nails into the wall, and then it's gonna hang nice and tight, right? I can also make like maybe a bend or something, I don't know, I'll have to see. But that also means that I don't have to like put like holes into the fabric. I just sew this together. Now, this is what I'm gonna do now. This, just as a teaser, I'm working on my own soles. So I'm starting to make my own shoes. So this is just hemp rope that was lying around. I fixed it with nails. So I put nails like this, put it around it, And then I took smaller nails and just fixed it here. And now I'm looking for a long needle that I can sew this from side to side. And then I go in like this and like this, you know, and then I've got a sandal. And if I even wanted to, I could take some beeswax and I could soak this. Not that the beeswax is on the outside, but you put it into beeswax, and maybe not too much. I'd say you warm up beeswax in a bain-marie, which is a water bath, which means, I have to explain this so many times. You take a pot, in the pot is water, and the water you heat up, bring to a boil. And into the water comes a bowl, probably metal. You can also put a cup in there, doesn't matter. Just something that is heat resistant. And in that comes whatever you want to melt, so that it doesn't burn. And then you could take a like the thing, like a brush thing with the bristles, but not a brush, but like, and then you can put that on top. And then you just put it maybe on 100 degrees for 5 minutes into the oven. Because if you put the wax in here, it's probably going to get hard immediately. And so you put it into the oven then, and then it's going to soak into the fabric, which means that it's going to keep out moisture and probably keep this from going off. You can probably also buy some kind of like a resin type thing. I wouldn't use rubber, I wouldn't use plastic. I'd use something natural. But there are also things for working with wood. But it's supposed to be natural. I mean, resin is really sticky, of course, but it has to be something natural. So just look for it in your own life. And of course, it shouldn't be, it should be natural, so that it doesn't, that if you walk on this, that your feet don't. And then I will crochet, or I will I have old sweaters. And, okay, I'm just going to show you. So you could start with this yourself already if you want. I may take some time. So I have some clothes that I have been given by my brother. And I'm not going to wear this. Well, I may turn it into a vest, but I'm not going to wear it like this because this is too tight. So now look at this. This is just going to be the shoe. You know what I'm saying? Or I can just turn this then, close it in front. I could even leave it open. Like this, and then I could wear the shoe like this, and then I have my toes. Or if I wanted to be nice and heat proof, I just sew it shut, and then I just have shoes. I slip into this, I go onto my soles, and I can separately wash this. This is super awesome, because they're gonna be more like sandals, which means that this is gonna go up until here, and I'm gonna use then rope, right? It's gonna be like Huarachi style shoes. So just get some thick hemp rope. But yeah, I need longer needles, and then I can take tongs, push it through, take it out on the other side, and then go around like this, and then like really make sure it's tight, and then I simply have to experiment. Yeah, I mean, that's just how I'm gonna do it. And I have been working on this project in my mind but this is really nice because I can put this up until here, and then I simply got my protection. Super nice. Old clothes, my friend. So if somebody asks you, hey, do you need some old clothes? You just pick the ones where you say you like the fabric, and then you use the fabric and do something else with it. I mean, I made the curtains out of old shirts and stuff. And I think that's a much, much better approach than to just say, yeah, I don't need it. Yeah, so I've still got a pair of old trousers that I need to fix. I have to make them more tight. Okay, now I'm just gonna go upstairs and get these rings. So I didn't buy them, they were simply available. And rings, but also nails. Let's see. So yeah, something just fell on my head. And if these things happen, because it was standing there for a very long time. So, who just threw this onto my head? Wow. I don't care. I don't know. I have been living in a state of upheaval, which means that there have been problems in my life in certain areas where I just feel like, I'm hanging on the edge, completely like hanging on the edge. I mean, that just says it. And so what I'm trying to say is that there are certain parts of my life where I have nothing, like no stability in a certain sense, because it is uncharted land. It is, in terms of spirituality, let's say, okay, who is the Dalai Lama? How did the caste system develop? Yeah, sometimes I just use what I have. This may not be the best string there is, but I have it, so I may as well use it. Okay, what inspired the caste system? Because we're gonna work with the Bhagavad Gita later in the year, and I simply know certain things that have been brought to my awareness. Why? Because I practiced self-realization, which is know yourself. So we're talking about, you see who is in politics today, right? The people who are in politics today are not here to rule. How can you tell? Well, they are weak. And a true ruler, a true alpha, cannot give in to greed. So in order to maintain order under one's subjects, which I would say are then beings one is subjected to. So it's not objects, it's subjects, it's something emotional. One has to know about the pathways of power. So how is energy flowing? Which is then how a true king can keep corruption out of his space, to keep his people safe from exploitation. So you don't overly charge them with taxes, that's already corruption. So if a kingdom gets too big, and maybe the king gets lonely, that's usually then corruption. It's just darkness manifesting itself. The king no longer manages to channel it all, and then suddenly people appear in his life that look like friends, but they're not friends. A true king has no real friends, which is, of course, the challenge. To be kind of alone, and because you cannot share your burdens with anyone, because nobody will be able to understand what you're talking about. And if you then befriend the high priest and forget to see the high priest's shadow, then the high priest will ensnare your mind, take over your kingdom, and start working on you from the background. And this is basically what happened in the movie Ninja Resurrection, or Aladdin's lamp, that guy. That's what's basically happened to the Sultan. His mind was taken over by, somebody who was working from the background, who wanted to step out of the shadows and see himself in the light. So that is the idea of Hades or Hades, who's supposed to rule the underworld. This is Davy Jones, who got sick of shipping around souls. He should have maybe, this is like the shaman guy who starts to forget himself and wants to become the ruler. But a shaman isn't here to rule, a shaman is here to point out tight spots. He's not a chief. Shamans aren't generally leaders. They may teach other shamans, that kind of stuff, but they're not gonna be like a ruler. They won't rule you. They won't force you to do anything. They just inform you that's what lies ahead. Better pay attention. If you don't do it, well, then it's your problem. And then the shaman is going to say, well, too bad, my friend. So you just have to know your place. Maybe that's all bullshit. I don't know, man. There's all these words. What's a shaman? I think it's better to be an all-rounder and simply have a lot of abilities that come natural to you. So a lot of people underestimate, they always think, yeah, I could do that easily. Yeah. But should we just let you try? I don't think so. I've seen people who called themselves spiritual just experimenting with others, just pushing their buttons just to see what would happen. That's already abusing power. So work with yourself. That's the message. You see, this is super easy. I'm just folding this over and I'm just gonna make it so that I can put it up and take it down really easy. Plus, it's not going to support something really heavy. But it's still nice if it looks nice, of course. Yeah, so why am I talking about this? Simply, you have to pay attention. Because I think you either are, like, hey, I'm a follower, I'm gonna just do what this guy says for the rest of my life, okay? Suit yourself. I'm not a follower. I have my own direction, and I wanted to have my own direction, which is why you could say I'm self-employed. But on a certain level, I follow nature. I follow the tides of time. And also in a way to understand time better, I spend time with the concept of time, but I also, I then do creations, right, that deal with time in a certain way, which is why I'm writing Maximus time at the moment. So a king can never just be a player, right? You have to remain some kind of like distance, which is why on the chessboard, the king cannot move that fast and that far because he carries the burdens of what you may call, also responsibilities for others. Which is why, in a sense, you can say the king is also being checkmated by his subjects because they put him into place, right? I don't think that's how a lot of people see it, but that's how it is. So a true king has to be washed clean, yeah? That's like the walk into the desert. That's the Aragorn story, who lived as Strider. He basically lived most of his life in darkness until he was allowed to rule. So he had to go through all these trials, and then he could show himself as the king. But until then, nobody knew he existed. So sometimes you just have to live in darkness and then learn its ways. So you cannot be deceived any longer. So I think a lot of people should do their homework, because their life is probably being ruled by darkness. And so my approach simply started to be look at it, understand it, learn to resist it. Okay, now I cannot make a knot. Ouch! But it also has been one of my desires to look at darkness and try to understand it. So I think a lot of the darkness you see is just stuff in people. So I think anyone can do both. It's just what you choose. But some people are simply weak. So tribal life can also be intense. And it doesn't mean that it's always, super happy. So you have to make sure that you are aware of the people also in your surroundings that are easily drawn into darkness. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, can I deal with this person's darkness? Or should I rather leave them alone? You know, I've done that a couple of times because I realized there was a lot of darkness in people. I mean, I've had people that kind of like wanted to stalk me. So I had to keep them away. I'm just saying. Which is why I'm no longer really open for the public. You know, I'll go to professional things, but I'm not just gonna sit around in the park, because too many people also can sense that I have something and they will just come and try to steal it from me. I cannot allow this because, you know, I am in my own life simply a very important factor. And I don't want to be corrupted. And I know how corruption looks like because I've looked at it. I mean, I've spent time in parks looking at drug dealers, you know. I simply let go of that time. But you feel like you have friends there. And then you just let them go. Because they're all corrupt. You just didn't know. And then I realized, wow, I think I'm really different. So I never had the same intentions as these people. I may have taken drugs, but I took it for healing. They took it for control and power. And then I realized that I could no longer convince myself that taking these drugs was wholesome. And so I stopped because, you know, they were simply too, you know, all these chemicals, it's just bullshit. It's just like not all natural things are your way through to the light. I mean, you have to know. There are some plants that just pull you into the shadows. Depending on how heavy also your burden is that you're carrying. So, taking certain substances can literally open up the box of Pandora. So everyone also reacts differently. So there is no, you know, take this and it's gonna help you. So for me, learning how to cook and then working with spices and then just facing your darkness and doing most of your stuff over, you know, via breath. So yeah, I have a fairly experimental lifestyle. You know, you just say, hey, let's see what this does. But I was never inclined to try things like cocaine. Just had a feeling, I don't want this. But people tried to get me there because they know I have an inquisitive nature. And they were telling me stories like, yeah, I took cocaine and did it like some kind of a research. And I later realized he was a cocaine dealer. He was a cocaine dealer, man. I just didn't know, and he never told me. But I never fell for it. You can say, why? Well, I don't know, man. Just my feeling. You know? There's just certain things. If somebody wants to talk you into taking drugs, I'm just telling you, don't take them. What is their benefit for you taking these drugs? They're gonna rape you emotionally. I'm just saying, don't give in to it. Just leave and never go back there. Because this may haunt you for the rest of your life. Just put in the work. If you want to try something, do it alone. Do it in your own space, whatever. You know. That's the best advice you can give to anyone. Well, I did my ceremonial experiences with other people, and I realized that wasn't safe either. It was safe enough, but it started to slip. Like the so-called shamans that were supposed to be like father-like figures and mother-like figures started to become more and more corrupt. Like suddenly the husband of the wife, you know, it's like hugging a young woman, acts like a father figure. He wanted to have sex with her, man. In his mind, it was all working out, right? You know, the shaman woman wanted to use me as her lover, you know, started to shape how I looked. Suddenly I was getting my hair cut. I had long hair before. I had a beard. Suddenly I was spending more and more time there. Suddenly, you know, I only had a mustache. My hair was shorter. And I looked exactly like her husband used to look when he was younger. So they ran away from each other and tried to make others look like who they actually wanted. I mean, they just took too many substances with too many people, and then it wasn't the ayahuasca, you know, and then it was mushrooms, and it was peyote, and it was nothing that occurs here. And when I cooked for them just normal food, they said, wow, this is medicine. It's like, yeah, what do you think? You know, and then they don't want it any longer because they realize that you know better than them. So nobody needs ayahuasca. You just need to go hiking. I'm just saying. All this hype, you know, yeah, you should really do this. Yeah, forget about it. Anyone who tells you, yeah, you should really do this, it's already, no. They probably came out traumatized. And now they just want to, you know, run away. That's what most people do that go to ayahuasca. They don't go to ayahuasca because they really need this. They go there because they just want to run away. Because life happens where you are. Ayahuasca is usually far away. Sure, you can get some distance. But how long is that going to help anyone? If everyone just keeps running away from their karma, you know, you should start looking in your nature for what plants you can work with, you know. I mean, this is basically talking Lord of the Rings. You know, there's Gandalf. Gandalf has his kind of magic. And Radagast has his kind of magic. So there are no two wizards that are alike. So even if I would take on a disciple, all I could teach him, so I'd probably be reluctant to take on a disciple because if it comes to power, Just have to pay attention. That your disciple isn't selfish and is just acting like, you know. So if you take on a disciple because you feel lonely, I don't think I want disciples. Because if somebody wants to change, he's going to change. So I was looking into the Carlos Castaneda books. I have to brush my nose. First have to find the needle, because I don't want to step into it. I was looking into the Carlos Castaneda books, because Carlos Castaneda was acting like he wanted to be a student of Don Juan, who was this shaman of Mexico. And I listened to some of the audiobooks. Which gave me a good overview. Well, first of all, Carlos Castaneda was never interested in being a shaman. He was never interested to cleanse. He was never interested in any of the stuff for healing purposes. He just wanted power. And he wanted power for himself. He simply wanted to use Don Juan to get a better footing in his science department. So he followed Don Juan around, but he was no student. I mean, he didn't want to learn this. He just wanted to, you know, get Don Juan to tell him everything. But he never really participated. I mean, he did what he was told, but he just used it to write books then. Right? So he was affiliated with so his research was probably quite good. But you cannot say, you know, just see Don Juan as the teacher. I think he wanted to pass on his knowledge. And I have learned things from it, but I also find it a bit foolish. Well, you could say I'm a fool myself, because I'm talking about these things. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that anyone can really do anything with this unless they really wanted to know. But I was reading about reports of Carlos Castaneda, and he was being brought in connection with the death of a young woman. Right, so if you realize, you know, you want to teach someone and you're true, you hike barefoot, and now somebody comes and wants to learn from you, but he doesn't want to take off his shoes, which means he doesn't want to open up to nature. He wants to keep nature out. He just wants to know what you know and then use it for his own benefit, so that he can become more powerful. I have met these people, you know, they invited me into their presence or something, and then they just let me talk. And they thought it would make them smarter or whatever. But, you know, I have a cousin like this, right, who thought he could use me, play around with me. Well, he's a weakling. You know, he thinks he has diabetes. And I told him already before, don't name the disease. Well, it's incurable, he said. Well, there are reports that you can cure this, just have to switch to ketogenic. And there you go. Metabolism, where's the needle? I don't want to step on this. There. Very good. Now I can brush my nose. Clean my nose. Okay, how do you know is basically if people are trying to use you? Well, first of all, how can you know that people are trying to use you? Which is then the time missing for you to do your own thing or just go into nature? Well, a lot of people try to get you to get into their homes. Like they invite you. And they're really reluctant to let go, right? And you look at your own life and it kind of feels empty. And you go to them, and they've got family. This is a weird thing. People got, I met people who had already children. And they were both really obese. And they always invited people over. So they had no love for themselves, or I don't know, they were just running away into food and all that kind of stuff. And then they just invite people over, act like friends. But I think, well, if I would have a wife and children, I'd want to spend a lot of time just with like the 3 or 4 of us. I mean, that's like very precious time. So most of my life, I've just been figuring out how to set boundaries. Because you can keep people out, right? Like, sometimes you just have to keep people out. Like, grandparents can be really toxic. So you just have to set firm boundaries and then maybe they'll understand. So I don't trust people who, say, yeah, I'll do it exactly like this, because if nobody's looking, they do it exactly like they want to do it. Anyway, I felt drawn to my cousin. I went there for his birthday. I gave him a voucher for a hike. I said, here, there's a 30-kilometer hike. We can even do this overnight. And we set a date when we would do this. His wife even said, yeah, I approve of this. Now, I just had a feeling I wanted to do this. In the end, what it did, I think it kind of like just helped me to let it go. because I realized it seems to be useless for me at this point. Okay, how am I gonna do this? Okay, so I went. Okay, because it's already kind of broken. And I gave him the voucher. We agreed on an appointment. This is when we're gonna do it. It's like more than a month. And then when I left, he said, but don't drop me. And I said, yeah, I won't. And then 2 days before the appointment, he wiggled out of it. He said, yeah, I don't have time because of this and this. And then I asked him once, that I know the route. I just said it, and I'm gonna be ready. But nothing ever came. So some people are they're not really nice. And then really dishonest. And so he was just playing games. He probably thought I would chicken out, but I didn't. So in the end, he lost. But he's always mocking the strong guy, right? He's actually quite weak. So obese people are simply weak. And Carlos Castaneda was simply a weakling. He was obese. And every time Don Juan told him something about the shoes or something, Carlos Castaneda every time said, yeah, but I could never do that. So he always had an excuse because he didn't want. So in the end, what he did is he used his powers, tried to probably get some kind of a woman to follow him. Well, and she was found dead. Later. And that's what you get. That's the price for Carlos Castaneda's greed. Because of his ignorance, or Don Juan, because that's onto him. He should have not taught anything to Carlos Castaneda. Because Carlos Castaneda really didn't know what to do with this. He was just an idiot. He was always feigning ignorance. And he just wanted to become powerful. Well, in the end, he was neither scientist nor shaman. What Carlos Castaneda should have done is just, he was getting weak. Of course, I listened to it, just as I listened to Terence McKenna, but Terence McKenna was also weak because he was relying too much on these mushrooms and on the smoking. He didn't really believe in hard work. He was just, a stoner. I'm not a stoner. And I never have been. Because stoned people sit around like, oh yeah, I'm super stoned. No, when I used to smoke, I just did something active. Just realized at some point that while in the beginning it seemed like it was helping, at some point the negative traits of whatever I was, working with seemed to show or started to show, and I realized, wow, at some point it just doesn't help anymore. So in that sense, I can say, in a way, yeah, I fell in love with a woman. And in the beginning, I was still more open to taking drugs, and I took MDMA. And I called her and I showered her with all of this, love. And, I said, yeah, I really love you. I realized it was some kind of witchcraft. And she picked up on it. And she said that she has enough of this, that her boyfriend, one of her earlier boyfriends, used to do this. But it took me some time to get out of this. Well, I haven't seen her since, but she's the only one that I will allow back. That's just what I decided. Because it did kind of like wake me up. I realized, oh wow, that doesn't mean I have to stop working with plants, because I can still drink ceremonial cacao, but I certainly learned to not overindulge in these things. But yeah, I'll take what is natural. Ceremonial cacao is raw cacao, comes directly from nature. Hiking gets you high, breath work. Black tea, green tea, spices, the food you eat, right? So cooking is its own kind of a ritual, and then this stuff. This is focus work. This helps you to keep your focus. So I'd rather do that than sitting around smoking with people. Because these people are really stupid. Just sit around, smoke and talk about stuff. When I smoked, it was more like an experiment, observing. Okay, could I still maintain order in my life? And then for how long? Well, usually it started good, and then it just became more and more toxic. Because as you smoke, I don't know what it does. You get power, but it's more like a feeling of power. But it's unmaintainable because you get corrupted and you're gonna have all kinds of blockages, because instead of moving and stretching and breathing, you just smoke. Or you consume drugs, that's what people do with amphetamines, to stay awake. They could just breathe. But because so they have all these things, They give children Ritalin while they could just teach them. So I'm not saying I'm giving up on my cousin, but I'm saying that the only thing I can teach that guy is how to go hiking. But since he believes that he has, an incurable disease, it's probably going to be a tough ride for him. But it certainly would clear him out a little, spend more time in nature. But that's then up to him, so I'm not going to run after him. I told him I was getting ready for the appointment. He chickened out. Okay, maybe this will come back later. It's possible. But to me, it is irrelevant. Because it should be something important for him. Going hiking, no alcohol. There are certain rules. So maybe I just wasn't ready, right? Because I'll probably have to be very stable to guide people through nature. And I have to know that I can do it without problems. So maybe also having my own shoes could be beneficial, or just getting used to being in nature more and just waiting, right? So sometimes maybe things or people or circumstances come back in 10 years. Well, this, life is supposed to be endurance training. So smoking means no endurance. Breathing and cleansing means a lot of endurance. Hiking is better than running because it's endurance training. You can push through a hike for several kilometers, and you breathe and you walk and you push through. But you go to your limits, you test your own boundaries. That to me is better than running. Because running is really short-lived, it's just looking for highs. To me, the high is more stretched out. So hiking then becomes workout for Tantra. I mean, that's what a lot of people don't get. They just hear about Tantra and they just think it's just sex. No, it's not just sex, it's endurance training. I mean, it's holding the focus, maintaining an upright posture for an extended period of time. So as a man, you have to be really solid. But also the woman, right? I mean, I cannot do Tantra with just average women. That's why I chose one specific woman. And with her, I could do it. But if she never returns, then I'm just not gonna do it ever, So I said, she's the only one. She's the only one that can have children from me, or that I would have children with. She is the only one. And that's basically why I feel like I have, in that sense, freed myself, of having to look for a woman. I just said I found her already, but she has to come out of her own free will. So I'm not going to bewitch her, I'm not going to ensnare her mind or something. I just do what I do, but I'm also checking that it's child-friendly. And that's simply why I let go of people in the park, because these people were just looking for fun. They were just trying to escape. And then what the park became in the end, to me, was basically what Luke Skywalker did, with Yoda facing his own darkness. Well, I came out alive. I hurt no one. I injured myself a couple of times. But I also realized there is nothing to be gained in the park. Because if you really want to build yourself something and you say, hey, I could have a yoga center, then don't go to the park. Build yourself a center. But in the center has to be the meditator. Which is why the time you spend in parks, that's where your power, your energy is. People come to the park, they will do whatever they want. Because it's like Tortuga. You know, somebody said that to me. It's like open country. There are no rules. People will just do whatever they want. They will not accept what you say. They may not even accept your boundaries because it's not your space. You cannot tell them what to do there. You know, if they want to smoke, they smoke. So I realized, I think if I'm as irresistible as I might be because I've done my cleansing, you know, and then we talk about light and like moths, right? Darkness may be drawn to the light. So depressed people who are looking for light, may start picking up on your vibe, and then they try to get into your life. Well, you have to ask yourself if you want that. Or maybe for you it's enough to just be like a pillar on the internet. But then what about local? Well, I'd say local has to be, I don't know, you just have to see for yourself. But that means you're already, okay, if I'm gonna do my cleansing, people are going to become aware of it at some point. And then what is my standing? What are my values? So you have to know how darkness looks like, right? So a lot of people that have started with some kind of work met darkness. So I heard that this, I don't know, Russell guy, I don't know what his name is, that he had a background of drugs and then he just started to change. Also has a podcast and stuff. So, you know, for me it wasn't that bad. I think the worst thing for me was the sugar. And that's just something everyone gets. So my take on things isn't, you know, you gotta worry about the heroin addicts. No. You gotta worry about children eating sugar at the age of 5. Because that's how they become screwed up in their minds. That's why they get Adderall, because it either has them depressed or hyperactive. Because too much energy, that's what I often feel, can numb you, you know? So sugar can rile you up, but it can also make you tired because it's too much. And then you go into kind of like a lockdown. So when you start to cleanse and open your channels, there may be moments where you just, you know, crawl into a ball because it's too much. And it's simply then, it's just chaos, it just feels like madness. Which is why focus exercises. Focus keeps the energy flowing because it has a direction. So you focus on the vision you have for your life. And that's your arrow. Where am I pointing? So you have to get a feeling of who you are and what you want. And then realize what can help you to manifest that in your life. Well, you want one specific woman, but she's not sure whether to open up to you. Well then, you know, it's not about, you just have to be child-friendly. Strong, but also see her then as, you know, it's like guiding each other in a certain way. And that was simply my approach, but I'm still alone, right? Like in spirit, we may be together, but I heard, I mean, she told me that she kissed someone else fairly early in the beginning. And that kind of put me off, to be honest. So, but I also watched porn still for a very long time. Now I'm in this position, well, I'm not sure how I'd react if I would see her again. At the moment, I simply feel like I'll just reject her. Because this kiss is just, for me, it's just breaching certain boundaries. I don't know how women feel about porn. Well, if she kissed someone and she wanted to, because she was missing me, because every time I watched porn, I actually was looking for her, right? And every time I engaged with women, I was actually trying to, look for her. But if you look for your true wife in the wrong woman, then you will lead a miserable life. And she may as well. So I realized that every woman that seemed attractive in the beginning just turned into, well, she'd just be a replacement. I don't really want that. I just want to be true. So the truth is that she's the only one I want. It's just weird that she's never here. So you start wondering whether it was a good choice. Well, I don't know. It's certainly teaching me how to stand on my own 2 feet, which is what you need as a man. And since I have a history of addiction to certain habits, addiction to sugar mostly, it's just clinging, right? Okay, now I have done this, and now I can put it up. I'll just see. Then, if I realize it needs more, but now the benefit is I can also put it up into the corner. If I wanted to. And then I still got one more project. I'm just not so sure about it yet. Wow. Yeah, so the Terence McKenna thing is basically, he just had one approach. Take drugs, it's the solution. No, it isn't. You took the drugs because you wanted to take them, and now you're just addicted to them. Like, you could have just said, hey, I'll reduce it, and in the meantime, I'll just practice my yoga. But if your only message is take drugs, then I say, what are you talking about? That's not the solution. Because, this is supposed to be about safe environment for children. But he never cared about that. He was just a selfish ass. And I simply don't want that. We don't need more party. We need stable families. Okay, this one I'm gonna do after. I don't think this needs to be too long. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, videos are rendering. This is for another project that I may begin today. This I'm not quite sure yet. Hey, what is this? I'm not sure yet what to do with this. could have all kinds of purposes. Ah, well. Huh? Is the wall higher there? It's possible. Yeah, I'm getting scrawnier and scrawnier. Okay, I didn't expect I was going to do this. Okay, I'm going to do this with the back of the X. So just be prepared is what I'm trying to say. Prepared. Women may do really unexpected things. But I also do that. So you want to practice Zen? Then you need a wife that knows how to do that as well. Because I'm clearly teaching Zen. I'm not sure if you realize it. Could have worked, but it didn't. And sometimes I say these things and I'm like, why did I just say that? Is it because of this woman? Doesn't she like me anymore? Well then, too bad, right? Can't help it. Cannot force you to like me. That's my approach. I can do this on my own. I mean, I cannot have children on my own. But I'm just saying. But I'm not gonna wiggle out this time. But I certainly tried. Just looking for, okay, where's the boundary? Okay, this is super nice. But now, I feel like I could put something up here. So yeah, you can create, either hell or heaven for the people in your life. But once you choose a woman or a wife, I'd say you should be really careful. Because if she's your true wife, then whatever is a hell for her will also be a hell for you, which is like a death loop. So you never manage to lead a fulfilled life. Okay. Tricky. Can I get this a bit higher? I don't know how stable this is. Not very. I'm just saying. Don't follow my advice. You gotta figure it out in your own way. Ah. I have this. These are like, so I don't have to use a machine. So you can bore holes. Okay, one of these should be all right. Just hope this holds. It's possible that okay. Okay, so I'm going to... I'm just saying, it's not just about making fun, right? But you just realize you can do certain things. Just don't be an idiot. That's just what I'm saying. Like, being an idiot is just a mindset. Like, ugh! You don't want to be like this. This is about a bit of having dignity as a man. I don't make fun of people You know, I'm generally serious about this. Dignity, respect. If you don't respect me, you know, I'll just walk away. And when I realize there are places where they lack respect, then what's my approach? I'll just stay away. Right? There were people who were, you know, cherishing the moment when they had me back in their life. And then they tried to torment me with all my shortcomings, but I didn't have any shortcomings anymore. Or at least less of them. So I simply, you know, I said to them, my name is Christopher. And they said, no, I'm going to call you Chrissy. And I said, well, goodbye then. And that was a shock to them. But I had told them, that's my name. If you don't call me like this, well then, I know that you're lacking respect. And then the only response, if I have told you this 2 or 3 times, then the only response can be goodbye. And that started while I was in Amsterdam. I said, you know, I am no longer Chris. My name is Christopher. And all my life, people just gave me nicknames. And for some time, it was kind of nice, right? It was like an escape. Some of these nicknames, I even introduced myself as them. And then at some point, it just no longer fit. I simply said, I don't want to be like a short version of myself. I simply want to be myself. And it worked. And it showed me everyone who's lacking respect. But if you lack respect, and I invite you into my place, then you're going to probably hit on my wife. Because you just don't want that. So I just cast people out of my own personal life. Because I realized they simply lack respect. There's people that want to invite themselves into my space just to have a good time, you know. But I have no interest. Because you have your own life. You cannot escape into here because I'm building, I'm busy. If you're here, but you don't really need to be here, you know. So I'm waiting for my wife. No. But I'm not sitting around waiting like, no, I'm making good use of the time. And I still think I may never see her again. Well, if that's the case, then, you know, have a good life. It doesn't matter. I'm doing this anyway. But I'm also not yet over this she kissing someone else. I'm just saying. So she'd have to probably stand trial in front of my eyes. I'm not going to be like, hey, yeah, super nice that you're back. I'm going to be like, wow, took you long enough. And now, you know, what's your answer?
Well, what do you want to hear from me?
Well, what's your answer? You want to play around? You know, you got married and just kiss someone else. I'm supposed to just invite you back in like, yeah, super nice. No. I'm just saying, no. Like, you have to struggle for this one. that's basically what I'm saying. You wiggle out of this, I lose interest. So if you want to get me interested again, I don't know. Maybe dance for me or something. I don't know. You know? Which means you have to pick this up. Because I say I didn't screw this up. You try to sabotage this relationship from the very beginning. And then you say, yeah, she was just insecure. You know, she just couldn't believe. And yeah. So what? You just want to toy with me? Well, already a lot of women have done that. So I'm sick of it. And I don't allow it. I don't appreciate it. I don't know if I like this. No. You see, this is hard. It's not easy. So you have to take the time for it. Now I almost swallowed a nail. Holy shit. Right, so sometimes you really have to figure out how to put this. Now, is this supposed to go down there? Where is this going? Like this? And I could make another one here. Could, don't have to. Or even like this. But you have to look for these. Usually they go in a straight line up to the box. So yeah. I just say stay away from people with big dark cars. That's a really safe bet. Stay away from people that wear sunglasses. Doesn't matter how nice they act. If they wear sunglasses, then they are hiding things. And that's just my own personal experience. Right? So just be observant, pay attention, and then see what life you're really building here. You know, like I said, people who smoke have a death wish, and I don't have space for that. But yeah, everything I change means I have to get used to this. And that means I have to take the time to get used to it. Just as you have to get used to the spouse. So yeah, a younger wife, maybe like super hot, but she's also inexperienced. And you just have to know that. You may be patient and she may have to do learning. It may be good to still put something in the middle. Like there. So yeah, you can get a degree for anything, I'm just saying. Or you just do it. Gives you a lot of freedom. How about that? So sometimes you can have nails like this. You can do that yourself. I found them here. Top notch. High spirituality content and demand. Let's work out. Oh yeah, after the other video is rendered. I'm making a cube with cane light. Right, so some of these videos take 2 hours to render. That means you first record it, gonna maybe take a an hour or 2 hours, and then you have to render it. Because I always work with also, you know, the levels, the light, the contrast and stuff like this. There's different kinds of effects you can use. I usually change them because I don't always use the same effects or filters. So with Caden Life now sometimes I use these Bezier curves. So I just fiddle around with the settings, but every video I start anew. And then for some time I have a certain process, but if that starts getting boring, I'm going to start looking for something else. Which is why I simply wanted to look for a woman. I don't know, I just think as a man it's an important thing. So, Don Juan actually was a real idiot. Do you know why? Because he actually wanted a woman. But then a man came. And he accepted him. What an idiot. He should have just kept on going on his own. Until the woman came, or he would have just said, well, then there's just no one. So in the end, he was probably just lonely. Well, too bad, you know. I'm gonna do it like this now. What is this? I just thread, and then I'm gonna eat something. Because I'm hungry. Yeah. And that means every time I can just put this back. Oh, it's super tight. And I know it's gonna stay fixed in one place, which is super nice. Because before I had it more just in a loose way. This is much more professional now. So yeah, I also don't know how this is going to be in the rest of my life. If there would ever live a woman here, then how would I do this? Because I wouldn't want her in the videos, because then people start using her. And I don't want that. That's just what I have decided. But then I have to find a way to keep her out of my content. I'm just saying, it's just how you protect, you know. I'm choosing this. I can take it. Which is why I also keep other people out, because a lot of people, the attention gets to their heads. They lose control. Because every kind of attention is a bit like worship. Which means that if people suddenly start paying attention more to you because you start creating content, you have to know how to stay yourself. Otherwise, you will just become like an idiot, thinking you're awfully special. Why anyone could do this, right? That's what you have to remember. You're entirely replaceable. If you don't do it, somebody else will. You do this because you feel like, I think there's something I can teach. And that's what I have decided. Okay. And then there's one more. And that's why I'm the genius. Because I realized what content creation is about. Oh wow, that doesn't work. So stupid sometimes. Check. You know, genius indeed. Oh, damn it. Maybe this one works better. Aha! Doesn't matter. I think at some point I have to do I don't know, like the whole tapestry is all coming off. You know. It's just probably paper industry. Just selling their products and everybody jumped onto it. I don't see the benefit. Well, I don't know, man. Is this really nice? It's simply what it is now. But I cannot say it's really nice. This is so terrible. Sometimes you just do things and then you just immediately start to hate it. But then it's fixed. You gotta live with it. But sometimes it just takes some time until you get used to it. But now you made all these holes. But yeah, maybe at some point you're just grateful you're still alive. You can work out your stuff. But yeah, in my mind I am rejecting everyone. because I only want the strong. So if a woman cannot face her own shame, then she's just weak, and then I've got no interest. I think it's actually going to look nice. So this is training right here, right? Neck, shoulders, focus. Okay. Ouch. That's it. At some point I also don't care, I just say, I'll just leave it like this. Because the way it was also annoyed me. So I can't help it. And plus some women simply aren't. You know, a woman has to be, you know, she has to be like a muse to you. It's not supposed to amuse you, she's supposed to inspire you. And that's only one woman. And when I realized it, I said, hey, for you, I want to push my boundaries. And that's why every other woman, you know, cannot even kiss my ass. Because I just say, stay away. I have chosen a woman, and whoever you think you are is not her. Because that's the one thing I remember is her name. Right? I kind of know how she looks like, you know, but that can all change, but I know her name. And nobody can fake that. And that's basically then my only clue. Okay, now I also have space down here to maybe... Okay, it clearly still has room for change. So sometimes you clearly have to fiddle around a little and then maybe say, hey, maybe this goes here, or maybe somewhere entirely different. There could be a plant on there, of course. Okay, this is already a bit better. I think what I was actually aiming for, like some kind of like couch thing. I mean, not a couch, but something where you can also stretch out a little. The problem I have is this. Because if you sit there, you're directly next to like electricity. I don't like that at all. Okay, but wow. You know what it does? It raises the energy level, because this was previously somewhere down here and it was covering this all up. Now it's up there, which means there's clearly space here. So I don't see why I should not put something where you could sit on. I mean, nothing fancy, but like a simple, I could sit there, have a few cushions, because I want to make my own cushions. I want to stuff them with hay, and then I would put this up here. Well, at least if you have electricity, you can put up a light, right? So you could work through the night. You can sit there and read. It has a good space even for 2 people. Could be roundish. Could go like this. Like this. Or from here, because round means it's not edgy. Round furniture, kind of like this. Could work, because it shouldn't destroy the feng shui, right? Or just something else. Okay, now I have to still do the same thing, but I'm just gonna do this by myself, because then I can listen to an audiobook. Gonna do the same thing there. Okay. 2 hours, my God. But yeah, I wanted to do this anyway. It's alright. I think it's alright. Just have to get used to it. See what goes there. Like I said, I wanted to work a bit more indoors on these kind of projects. Okay. Cheers.